Welcome to Session 3, the modern day for a healthy corporate culture and why it matters. Questions to ponder or think about. What does a good or healthy culture look like? Would you like your relative to work at the same company as you do? If you knew better, would you have joined the company you are employed at? Where did the burnout come from? Why do you hate your job? What's the effect of a toxic culture on the organization as a whole? Toxic culture. Can it be measured? Is there more going on that meets the eye? Why pay attention to the culture of a company? In writing The Advantage, Why Organizational Health Trumps Everything Else in Business, Patrick Lencioni tells of his father being a salesman who was extremely good at what he did, but remembered that he often came home from work frustrated, complaining about how bad the company was being managed. I didn't know what management was, Lencioni continued, but I was pretty sure my dad shouldn't feel frustrated after putting in 10 hours at work. Lencioni goes on to explain that modern day companies are flowing to the brim with smart, talented people, but who find themselves in less than suitable environments. He became convinced that the biggest problem his clients faced and their biggest opportunity for competitive advantage was not really about strategy or finance or marketing. It was something less tangible, something that seemed to revolve around the way they managed their organizations. It is recorded that more than half of employees are ready to take a pay cut rather than work in a bad company with a bad culture, confirming what business guru Peter Drucker wrote back in 1959. Culture will eat your mission and vision statement for breakfast, implying that culture of your company always determines the measure of success, regardless of how effective your strategy, etc. may be. Can toxicity be measured? Certainly. The old adage that if it can't be measured, you cannot improve on it, manage it, or control it rings true. This type of quantification bias, meaning if it can't be measured, it does not exist, is an ever-present constraint on correcting toxic workplace cultures. Jim Collins said, "Qualitative field research is just as reliable as the quantitative kind, as long as clients and readers attest to its validity, attesting to the fact that the effects of a toxic culture can be clearly seen or at least felt." Lencioni underscores the argument when he says, the benefit of becoming a healthy organization, as powerful as they are difficult to accurately quantify. Organizational health permeates so many aspects of a company that is isolating any one variable and measuring its financial impact is almost impossible to do in a precise way. That certainly doesn't mean that the impact isn't real, tangible, and massive. It just requires a level of conviction and intuition that many overly analytical leaders have a hard time accepting. Taken from an article, The Return on Investment of a Company Culture, wherein the writer explains that according to research, culture is highly relevant to your bottom line. It takes intention and relentless pursuit to build a viable business culture that will give you a return on your investment. Harvard's Professor John Kotter points out, revenues increase in these companies 4 times faster. Job creation rates grew 7 times higher. Stock prices increased. Profits climbed 750% higher. New revenue grew and customer satisfaction doubled. Tony Shish, founder of Zappos, added his 2 cents worth to the argument when he says, the reason most companies don't focus as much as they should on customer service or company culture is that the return on investment is usually seen 2 to 3 years down the line. However, toxicity is quickly seen when it comes to sticky issues such as speed. Stephen Covey remarks that when trust is low, cost and time goes up. My experience is that significant distrust doubles the cost of doing business and triples the time it takes to get things done. By contrast, he continues, individuals and organizations that have earned and operate with high trust experience the opposite to low trust. A quick word on trust though. We are essentially talking about vulnerability-based trust, which fundamentally is not the same as predictive trust. Vulnerability-based trust is only seen in environments where people are free to express themselves without reprisal or pushback. Retention. Quoting from a Society for Human Resource Management report in which its CEO Johnny Taylor states, "We have reached a cultural tipping point in the workplace. What became clear is that a bad workplace culture can derail an organization, creating a toxic atmosphere that leaves employees frustrated and produces a very real bottom line impact, costly hiring and onboarding. Whatever the reason, it is well documented that employee turnover is costly and disruptive." Absenteeism. Adding to that, the ever-present threat of productivity loss as seen in the prevalence of presenteeism, which is basically being at your job or at your desk but not at work, or the rise in absenteeism, which is staying away from the place of work for no apparent reason, are ever-present constraints placed on the company's bottom line. Health. It is estimated that 40% of all work-related illness is due to work-related stress, depression, burnout, and anxiety disorders. Insurance companies have seen a substantial increase in the number of disability claims resulting from psychological, psychiatric, and mental disorder due to work-related stress. Limitations. Culture, and especially a toxic one, will act as a constraint on your talent's ability to successfully execute the company's strategy. Gangs, silos, and toxic office politics limit overall effectiveness, thereby curtailing efficient and productive behavior. This is mostly observed in the way we communicate and cooperate, either by withholding information, lack of support, or even foregoing the opportunity to weigh in when asked to. In this session, we discovered the latent effects of a toxic culture and the impact it has on the organization as a whole. Join me in the next couple of sessions to discover what it takes to identify and correct cultural flaws, and by that time be able to identify your organizational culture.